It's great, man.
So language allowed us, it developed this, or we developed this technology to time travel, to cheat death, to become immortal, but to truly become subjects as such, because it is the intersubjectivity that is, I think,
Hmm.
subjectivity. Like, without intersubjectivity, there is no subjectivity. You're just subjectivized. Um, but also, without social structures and political structures that allow you to have non instrumentalized time with one another. Because language fails, because the signifier is ultimately just this interconnected referential web of failures, um, the meaning that we have, like we use the code uh, to trade thoughts, ideas, concepts, notions with one another. But what makes them intelligible to each other, the only reason there's meaning is because we have this shared ground, and we have like the shared web of mutually intelligible and agreed upon meaning. Um
Hmm.
and it is necessarily non-instrumentalized, um that allows communication to be successful. And of course, you're never gonna have communication as such. There's always a failure. But the deeper the shared ground goes, the longer you've known each other, or the more you have in common, or kind of the more mutually agreed upon, mutually intelligible meaning you have, the more successful communication can be. But capital is it is us. It is this instrumentalized uh, extension of the self that's trying to cheat death, that's trying to become immortal, that's trying to time travel. Because, like, back when we're cavemen hunting the tiger, for that moment
Hmm.
when we're together, when we persist, we're both real in the world. I've been
Hmm.
actualized to you, you've been actualized to me. There is a mutual recognition. It's not always a misrecognition. Like, there is something about, like, oh, you're a person, I'm a person. But without language, that goes away,
Hmm.
because you can't, like, I can't carry you in my mind without signifiers that I can use to try to represent you. So because there's this, like, drive, and I don't know, maybe that's going back to Schelling, maybe, like maybe, or I don't know. McGowan's really interesting on this, but, like, because it's this motor, this drive that's trying to time travel, it's trying to become immortal. That is what capital is. It's the impetus to persist in the world. But there also is part of a human that lives in the negativity, and it's because we have instrumental language, but we also have non-instrumental shared grounds. That's how we can have meaning. And that's what love is. That's where love comes from. That's where love lives. And that's where this kind of
Hmm.
spiritual side of the human exists in the negative space. That is, it's not instrumentalized, but capitalism became this extremely effective technology, value coordination, social coordination, political innovation. And in many ways, that's all there is. Like, there's nothing else on the surface of the planet except for what capitalism has
Hmm.
allowed to be and kind of created, and allowed us to kind of overcode and recode and reterritorialize. But nevertheless, I mean, going back to earlier in the conversation, we talked about the failure. Like, this is a necessary failure. Art is impossible. And
Hmm.
it's because we want to champion the impossibility of this thing. That's where art, in fact, becomes possible once again. So
Hmm.
we have the animalistic metabolism creature that is labor, it is value, it is extension. And then we have the spiritual, soft and squishy side that is negativity, that is meaning, that is love. Um, like, So we are necessarily split. Like that is the split, I think. The instrumentalization and the negativity, that's the split. And because capital comes out of the metabolic side, and we don't have a technology robust that kind of comes out of the negativity side. So you're right to say capital is us, but like it's not us. It's like if you and I both got really drunk, it would like that's not us. That's just one like base lower retarded part of us. We're also like intelligent and kind and caring, and there's so much more to us that can't even be labeled. I think that part is capable of defeating the drunken instruments.
Yeah.
We like that's the war we're waging. And so like, yeah, I said we're waging war against the machine. I call it the alien. You said, no, it's not the alien, it's us. You're right that it is us, but it's an unrecognizable version of us because it's this.
Yes.
It's the drunken, retarded, stultified. It's the penis, right?
It's unconscious.
It's
the movement of capital is. I mean, this is I think a very Marxist point, but it's like the movement of capital is unconscious. It is something we do. Yeah, it is something between us.
Mm-hmm.
But we cannot be conscious of it right now. This is the question. This is why I would say it's a war, but not a war in. I think this image of like this Nietzsche point with like pregnancy is a sickness. You know, it would be a war like. It would be a humanitarian mission against oneself, so to speak. You know, like because, and I think this what I thought is like the real and the abstraction. You know, like the instrumentalization it necessitates abstraction.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's in this sense not possible. You know, like I think, and it can. It is not so that it is a prerequisite, but it's historical. You know, it arrives out of social relations in the manufacturing process, blah blah blah, yada yada. You get the third estate, and then abstraction as a concept appears. You know, you can see it finally. You can realize that there is abstraction. And so what do you think about this point that like this whole discussion we're having and the concepts we're using right now? Okay, no, let me point it more provocatively. Like I thought a lot about Lacan and Zizek. And I was like, and Baudrillard, and I was like, but is this the transhistorization of language as we know it?
Ooh.
Because, like, that is the point that, like, yes, from our perspective, you are completely right. I agree with you. You know, like now we can see this, but we cannot know. You know, like the potential that we speak about, that we can really meet each other. You know, like this like how did you say it? A concrete other?
Yeah. The concrete other allows us to. I mean, it's reification.
Yes, the concrete other is the unrealized potential.
Yes.
Of capitalism, of capital. That is what I think, because we can only say this in the moment of abstraction of the commodity. This is the dual character in use value and exchange value.
So
because actually the concrete other, like my pointed question is the concrete other the use value?
I think, and I like where this is going, but I think, at least right now, for some reason, because like this argument, this logic, I think is correct. But there's something in me that wants to resolutely say, no, the concrete other comes first. The concrete other is the kind of condition of possibility for human subjectivity. And I think human subjectivity is prior to capital. I think while this kind of metabolic motive force, which is capital, while I think that's like a necessary part of the human, it's also not, it's not sufficient, right? It's a necessary condition, but it's not a sufficient condition. The other necessary, but in isolation, insufficient condition is, I get, it's the soft, squishy, spiritual thing that is like, there was a point in time where like monkeys started thinking and feeling. And so you have the metabolism and then you have the cognition, and those two together, those are the necessary and sufficient conditions for subjectivity. And no, and those together, they're not even sufficient, because there's a third condition of possibility that is the necessary and sufficient, like that kind of completes the triumvirate, and that is recognition, because that recognition allows us via reification to become actualized in the world and start to see ourselves, to have a self-awareness. The self is necessarily predicated on the non-self. So because I'm a monkey who moves and extends himself in the world, but I'm also a monkey who's starting to think and starting to feel, and I see another monkey and I think, oh, I wonder, like, and obviously I don't think, because this is pre-linguistic, but like I feel a pull toward that other monkey, and I think I want to be with that other monkey. Ape together strong. And so I think that the concrete other, maybe it's not prior to capital, but maybe it's co-equal. It's equiprimordial with capital, right? So maybe it's this triangle of what we're calling capital, which is this motive force, the extension, the drive, the metabolism, and then there's this kind of interiority, thoughts, feelings, and then out in the real world is the other reification. And only when you have all three together, you get what we think of as the human. So I think maybe it's not prior to, maybe the concrete other is not prior to capital, but I think it's distinct to capital. And I think capital uses it and latches onto it. And I think it might be the case that currently it is this kind of culmination, this unfulfilled promise. But I don't think it necessarily has to be. Like, I do think there's a way that we could kind of come into a relation with self and world, where the recognition of the other as, like, that is the condition of possibility for me in the first place. Well, I guess ultimately, I guess it's like a Levinasian point that it's just like, yeah, it's only through this pull toward the other that I can fully come into my own. But I mean, I don't disagree with your argument, but I want you to be wrong. And so maybe I just have to construct an argument to make it wrong.
But I think like there's a reason why I make that argument,
Yeah.
because like this is also the point where I'm like, I have reached this position where I'm like, I don't think um, the political, in a certain sense, can be um, disentangled from the philosophical, because I think now I disagreed with his position. Now I agreed with Marx's point that he says um, philosophy has only tried to understand the
Understand the
world.
world. Now we
The
need to
point,
change it.
the point is to change it. Um, and I think like I think the first critique I read of that is from Zizek, and he has a very basic
Mhm.
counter argument that I think is too weak, because Zizek reads it as like it's telos and la la la. Um, but I think Marx's point is yes, but in capitalism there is a telos, and it is this point of
Yeah.
it's unconscious or it is conscious,
Mm.
and this is the reason why I bring this up. Like I think the question of to see the freedom in capital um, is also, a, in a sense, a guard against falling back to a more like basically a Proudhonian
Yeah. Yeah.
position.
Yeah.
Like a
Yeah. Yeah.
neo-Proudhonian, we can go back to the property and property theft, and there's like um, and I agree even with the Proudhonian point, but the problem with the Proudhonian point is like um, yes, you are correct, but we cannot go back.
Yes.
We
Yes.
can only go through.
Yes.
We can only go further. And it is a point to realize something, to negate something for the very first time, in a sense, which already happened all along. I think this is
So
the like
is is an expression of this kind of negation of recognition. Like today, what goes for the kind of recognition that I want is identity politics, and it is affinity groups, and it is like the commodity and the brand, and like you have to craft your personal brand, and we are fully commoditized, and so we have to behave as commodities because it is true that negativity doesn't exist in the world. It's all up here. We gotta drop back out in some way. But like, how do we do that? Because I think like that negation is why we have identity politics, and why we have people who think like necessarily the most dangerous person is your partner.
I think the I would make one caveat. I agree, but I think there is also real negation.
Okay.
But maybe I'm misunderstanding using negation in the wrong way. But like I will be the idiot on purpose, because I am, and I am not. Um, um, I think there is negativity in the world, in the sense like, okay, so before you started this recording, we talked about like personal stuff, what's happening in our lives, and I said like that I'm having kind of like a falling out from art,
Mm-hmm.
and I had this where I was like, what do I want to do with my life?
Mm.
Yeah, and of course this is Byung-Chul Han, positivity everywhere. I can uh, I cannot um, I can't can
Yeah.
I the, and in the sense that is negative, because I had this moment where I was like, yes, Byung-Chul Han, you're kind of correct, but I come from a class position where I'm not completely enmeshed in positivity.
Mm-hmm.
There is negation. I cannot do whatever the fuck I want. I have a partner. I have a dog, and of course I want them in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
But in another sense, it's like I am so alienated, I'm also dependent on my partner. It is the dialectical moment. It is not only positive, it is contradictory, negative at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like my ability is negated.
So, yeah.
Time energy lag is negation in a
It's-
sense. It's a material negation.
So yeah, it is, and I think maybe I want so I think just like alienation, negation is inescapable. I think alienation is a part of life, and I think negation also is a part of subjectivity and striving for actualization, right? We can't escape it, and it's also like a constituent part of the process of realizing it. But
yeah,
I don't like when certain accelerationists will say, well, alienation is good, actually, let's just do more. Like I think that's missing the point. I think we can find a qualitatively different form of alienation, and I think that's I know, like, part of being part of Theory Underground for me, like, I'm striving to find this different form of alienation where, and Byung-Chul Han again talks about alloexploitation and self-alienation, self-instrumentalization. I think there's at least the potential for a species of this type of alienation that allows us to liberate ourselves. If we keep our eyes on the future rather than immediate results. I also think there's like qualitative differences in negation where you and we can incorporate this necessary negation in our understanding to enrich our understanding. Just like if I'm using a word wrong, or if you're using a word wrong, like if there's a misunderstanding, then we'll stop and we'll back up and we'll constantly trying to get ourselves back on the same page. We're also always making recourse to conversations we've had in the past and time we've spent together. So like that kind of negation is the one I want.
Yeah.
But it's not the one we get because we do get this actual like material and effectual negation where it's just like, shut up, you're a worker. Shut the fuck up. Go to work.
Yeah. We can be nothing but. Yeah. And we are always already subsumed.
Yes.
Under it. This is the point of unfreedom.
Yes.
The dual character where the unconscious process subdues us to it at the whole time. And it's all of us, because I think like what I wanted to add is like we have a social relation.
Yes.
You know, like, and it's productive in a sense, because I'm bringing all this up because I noticed that I'm like drifting away from this like Zizekian, McGowan, constitutive negativity, where I'm like, yeah. But it's also it is a historical position in the sense I try to historicize it and become conscious of it and immanently critique it.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, what does it tell us about the world that was that you have this position? Like maybe in like, you know, like growing up, these guys who grew up in the 90s and in the 80s and got like socialized in this time period, which was the time period of negation, even back to Lacan, you could say that.
Yeah.
With pseudo activity, how much was the new left? Yes, they tried, but how enmeshed were they? You know, like how much of a failure was it? Where in a sense he is correct when he says you will get the father but worse.
Yeah.
Lacan.
Yeah.
You know, but at the same time it is also dual character, because at the same time it's a super conservative thing to say at that time.
Yeah.
Retroactively, where I'm like, okay, but what is productivity? And it's not to say only in like a to reify productivity, which we do all the time anyway, but like not in like a theoretical sense,
Yeah.
reify, but to say like something is still getting produced. You know, you remember this moment when like Sahir talked about us about the first chapter of Capital, and he said like, are there not workers? Is not something getting produced in the
Yeah.
world right now? And I really thought a lot about that. Where I was like, I think the guy is right.
Mm.
And I think it's so hidden from us. It is so it is so disparaged, you know? And then the question for me becomes why is it so disparaged?
Mm. So that leads me to a very, or it doesn't lead me, but it makes me want to take a very dark pathway of, well, so what? Then we've already lost.
Mm-mm, I don't think so. I think this is the reason why I say it is why I agree with the Platts and the position of
Ah,
Chris Cutrone and
right,
even of Doug Lane. I say it is a task.
right.
We um and even if we did,
Mm,
we would have to change that we did.
yeah.
That's like to uncover revolutionary potential, to make it visible, to bring, you know, I had this moment where it was like, why do I feel my life being so shitty the moment that I failed at something?
Mm,
Why is that?
mm,
And it is not only because of disposition and my unconscious, and yes, it all gets reflected and refracted, and it interacts with they interact with each other. But like, basically, it's because I live in a world where there is no room for failure.
mm-hmm.
What does that concretely mean? If I'm so fucking atomized, um, then it is no wonder. And why am I so fucking atomized? Yes, because at the end of the day, I am a leftist.
Mm,
And in the moment where this is not, it has no political power, there is no milieu, it is all um, up for grabs, you know, like what you said, like particular, how did you put it? Reifying yourself, like your position, because you want to get recognized. That is what you.
yeah, like that is I think that's it, the kind of pull toward the other. And it's only through this imagined recognition from the other, who you yourself have to first recognize.
Hmm.
So because you recognize the other before, before you kind of actualize or realize. So it's like a weird ping pong ball back and forth where it's like, I see you, I want you
Yeah,
to see me. And it's
yeah,
only because of that distance between the two. And from my perspective, you are always the one who's allowing me to actualize. And from your perspective,
yeah,
I am always the one who's allowing you to actualize. And because we live in the future where there's 9 billion of us on the planet and we have the internet and social media, like there's never really an opportunity to live outside of this anymore. And the people who do, the feral children, there's been a lot of kind of interesting studies on feral children and what happens to their brain. And I think it's super interesting. I just haven't read enough about it to really have a coherent statement. But I would say they are not human until they've been languaged, until they've been
yeah,
subjectivized in the same way that we are human.
yeah.
And that's not to victim blame or anything. Like I think it is necessarily that back and forth Congress that makes us human in the first place. But yeah, it is a reification because it's like I'm taking actions on the world to try to make the world fall in line with my beliefs or my desires.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's constructive. I don't think it's a bad, shitty, manipulative thing. I think it's wonderful. I think that love, I think that's where love comes from.
Yeah. 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 I mean, I think that's like there's something that like at the same time there's something that eludes the grasp.
Yeah.
Like even this ping pong, there's something that goes beyond this situation.
Yeah.
Because because we're not robots.
Yep.
And this is I think the point that I made with like the aliens. We are the aliens.
Yeah. Well, we're both, right?
It did that.
We have to be both.
We are both, and in the alien sense is for me this otherness where freedom can happen.
Yeah.
I'm in that sense. I'm radically queer, like I'm ultra queer. I'm like everybody does this all the time. And it's like how they actualize this. It can get backwards, forwards, whatever our parameters are. But there's always something like where the Lacanians and I think even the Freudians agreed there that it's like the psychoanalytic point. There are things you cannot put into words.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Which means in this process there's something that we cannot like I'm starting to think about like this is like like in a sense even with like commodity fetishism, sensual over sensual.
So the surplus, it is a surplus, but it's a human surplus rather than a surplus of value. And yeah, that surplus is alienness, or I mean, I don't know. I guess to be fully consistent and because eventually I want to write like a humanism, right? I want to clarify my position because I always find myself coming back to like, yeah, but the world that we live in is inhuman and we're humans living in this inhuman world. And so like we have to figure out how to make the world more human. And I think this surplus, this alienness, I think that is like the ultra human essence.
Yeah.
Like that is it. The highest of the highs is something that can only come out of us, but it is so estranged from us because the world we live in down here in the depths, we never have opportunities to pursue that. And I think it can maybe spontaneously emerge or maybe even like intentionally emerge in certain conditions. But I think even that has been like hijacked by like religion. Because like
it is
the moments of like profound sublimity and like spiritual wonder and just absolute excessive love, I felt that before. Like I have had moments of just sublime love, excessive something. And I haven't got them at church.
Yeah.
I've got them through others, but I am aware of the fact that like church trades in those moments or the promise of those moments to get people to fall in line to kind of support this social technology of the church as such.
Yeah.
But I also think there's something to the idea of like, it is numinous. It is spiritual. And for me, I take a materialist explanation because I'm a atheist, but like I know people that wholeheartedly accept like a Christian or a Buddhist or a Muslim or a Jewish. Like there are people that I believe have also experienced that kind of sublime moment, and they say, well, that's God, that's divinity. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
I'm okay
The
with that.
only word, and even as an atheist, like I had like one moment where everything made sense in my life for a short second, and it was on stage acting.
Mm.
It one fleeting second, but it felt like kissing God.
Ooh.
It felt like I had no other word for that. But I think we only get it in glimmers.
Yeah.
And in a sense, like that is why religion is it is a necessary social technology.
Sure.
In
Absolutely.
current mode, like to be clear about this, not to get like into vulgar opposition, but to
Right.
say like, of course, this is all like the barbaric aspect of it. The inhumanness is barbaric because it is necessary, and uh, but it shouldn't be so.
Yeah.
Yeah, it should be so. Um, and I haven't read it, but I think like the closest concept for what maybe we are both talking right now, but from what I understand, what I hear from you is Adorno's what is it again? Multiplicity of difference. I have to check it because I don't want to.
Yeah. Adorno. That pesky.
And I think he's one of the greatest,
I
actually.
am looking forward to Chris Catrone teaching me more about Adorno, because he recently in the final lecture of his introduction to Marx series,
Yeah.
He was there for maybe, I don't know, 30 minutes or so. Like we kind of broached this Adornian
Okay. Yeah.
labyrinth, and it was a great lecture series. But I really want him to kind of go into that, because I haven't read Adorno. I mean, I've read essays and shit like that, and but like no, like Chris Catrone is like, there's so much here.
I think there is, because like I think like if I follow Catrone, then this multiplicity of differences is this idea of like um going beyond,
Yeah.
like going somewhere. And of course it's utopian. That's why I think they said that he's like weirdly messianic Jewish
Yeah.
Adorno, um something that's always there but can never arrive.
Look, man, it's
But that's
funny.
like,
Like
yeah.
I think Levinas is also talking about this, and people
Mhm.
similarly accuse him of being a kind of mystic Jewish kind of
Because they are anti-Semites. They don't understand. They don't understand. No, I'm half joking, because I
yeah.
think they don't understand like the bourgeois aspects in a certain Jewish milieu.
Yeah.
Like in European Jewish milieu, secular Jewish milieu in Europe, that they were the intellectuals. And there was a
Yeah.
reason for it, because bourgeois revolution meant that they could finally get more rights actually in society.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, like Nietzsche is a champion, I think, of this kind of like like uh secular bourgeois spiritual humanism, and people love Nietzsche, but then people want to push back on Levinas, people want to push back on Adorno, like, and it is just kind of weird. It's like, you guys just don't like him because they're Jewish? I don't know.
Maybe. No, but I think that it's a good transparent. I always forget this word because it's so good in German. Like, what is like a transparent sheet in English? like a sheet, just a sheet, right? Like that you put on
Yeah, I mean, you could call it a transparency. You could
like
call
these
it,
overhead projectors where you like this the things you put on overhead projectors, so you
yeah,
can
what
in
are
class,
those
right?
called? I've always just called them transparencies. Like, oh, that's a transparency. Let's see. Transparency sheet. Let's Google it and see what if there's a name for it. Clear film.
Film, film,
Film. Okay, cool.
film is like I think this is the film you can put over
Mm,
like Adorno as like Benjamin, that it's like
yeah.
I think it's in order to not take them seriously so much as political thinkers. And it's like even revolutionary thinkers trying to do something with that, but to say like, yes, of course,
Yeah.
you know, these Jewish intellectuals, they just wait for the Messiah, like in this sense.
Yeah, Benjamin too, man. Like I recently read a lot of Benjamin and I fucking love Benjamin. Like look, I love Baudrillard and I think I wouldn't be doing any of this were it not for Baudrillard because he kind of broke through like whatever cultural shit I was living through and somehow I heard about Baudrillard and like that really kind of sparked my love of trying to think or whatever, but without Benjamin, Baudrillard, I don't think would be doing anything at all. Like I think all the cool shit Baudrillard is doing, Benjamin kind of started that party. And
Yeah.
also Benjamin is like very, very, very Marxist. And
Yeah.
people come around and just kind of hand wave him away and yeah, it's problematic, which is cool that Catrone is so big on these guys. He's so big on these Frankfurt School guys that are not doing some weird postmodern, post-Marxist, whatever. Like they're like very, very structurally sound, and they're trying to cope with their moment.
The interesting thing is that I got like introduced to them from like these anti-Germans, like this conservative leftist sect, which like it, yeah. This not to like completely diss them, like they are just like expressing a defeat. Yeah, the anti-Germans. Didn't you hear about them? Did I never tell you about the anti-Germans
I
in
don't, I
Germany?
don't, I don't know.
The trajectory is Benjamin Frankfurt School, Mosch Postone, 90s happening unification, kind of also Red Army faction, and like um, the threat of fascism, and you
Yeah.
get the anti, which is like the left splits into the um, anti-Germans and the anti-imperialists. So like the critique that Cutrone has is almost anti-German, but he doesn't like them, I think, or like critiques them because I think he would say that they're not socialist enough. Like, like they also get into a reactionary position, but they're crazy. I was kind of part of them, and it's crazy. Like it's all cleansing, but in a very intellectual level.
Yeah.
That's where I got into philosophy kinda along these lines, and they read Adorno and Horkheimer and Benjamin in a certain way. Like the text by Postone from like anti-Semitism and the left, it's like a founding text for the anti-Germans.
Huh.
But they emphasized that super hard. They were like, at some point, certain anti-Germans are like working class, it's all Nazis, it's all anti-Semites.
Jeez Louise,
Liberal
dude.
German state. Yeah. Liberal German state is the best we can get. It's shitty, but we have to defend democracy no matter what.
That sounds very familiar to Kamala Harris supporters here today in America.
Yeah, man, I know all these discussion points from Germany, from the left scene from 10 years.
Oh, geez, dude.
Like, where that's ridiculous. Like, even here, like the director I told you about, she came in and she was like, she was shaken. Like I came into the room when because I didn't pay attention to the election. Because I don't watch the news. Um, and so like at the next day, everyone was like super bummed out and depressed, and I was like, what the fuck happened? Did you guys have a fight? Like, um, why are you so bummed out, you know? And then someone said to me like, yeah, didn't you hear Trump got elected? I was like, oh man. Okay, yeah. And the first thing I said was like, yeah, Kamala Harris was a pretty bad candidate, you know, like I'm
Yeah.
not surprised.
Yeah, I'm surprised that there are so many people who seem to be surprised. Like
Yeah, but
I didn't think there were that many people who were that, I guess, carried away by I don't know. Oh, Trump is the end of the world. Like that in itself is a kind of like millenarian yearning for apocalypse, where people are like convinced that it's the worst thing that could happen. And I
yeah,
guess I didn't realize it was that popular.
it is super popular. Dude, it is the liberal position
Yeah,
for real. Like like I would say mainstream liberal, not
yeah,
people who are really like not like hardcore liberals where you can actually have a good talk about like rights and the state and stuff like that, but like mainstream, I'm a good person, I'm a good human being, and I can afford it.
yeah,
People, they really think that like fascism is around the corner,
yeah.
which I think is still, I have also thought a lot about that. I think it is a way to not deal with fascism still
It's
today.
a disavowal of, yeah, that's the thing.
They don't take seriously the apocalypse happened.
Yep,
The Holocaust happened.
yep,
We live in this world. It cannot, in a sense, get worse, you
yeah,
know? Like barbaric, it can get worse, actually, you know? Like, definitely, atrocities can happen, but the breakup of civilization already happened.
yeah.
We notice that we can go to this level in capitalism.
It can get worse like immediately, but yeah, we already fell from grace. Like we are
Yeah.
already living in the wake of that. And guess what? It could get worse than it was back then, because that opened the door to that
Yeah, yeah,
kind
yeah.
of gleeful barbarism.
Yeah.
And it is a kind of retreat from that. And it is kind of like, well, and as problematic as it is, I've said it a million times, like fascism won World War II. Like it's not that,
I agree with you.
yeah, like the Nazis lost, America won, but fascism was the real victor of World War II.
The managed society took off.
Yeah.
Once total war is instated,
Yep.
you cannot go back. This is also, I think, from Horkheimer and Adorno.
Yeah.
Both make this point that they say the 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 conditions are laid out in a way that you cannot not do it.
Yep.
You need the intelligence services, all this like administration. No deal.
So think I believe that to be the case, and I wonder. I think this is why I reach for radical romantic notions of the human,
hmm
because I think, okay, there's no way out but through. There's no world to return to. We have to build a new world. We have to deconstruct the currently existing world, but in order to safely do that, we also have to construct a new one. At the same time, we're deconstructing the existing one, and I think the act of building a new world will be the active deconstruction of the existing world. But I have to reach for a naive romanticism at that point, because I think, like, well, we are living in this total war. But we can't get to tomorrow by continuing to do total war. So like there has
War.
to be a brave leap somewhere.
Of course, I completely agree. Like this is when I say like the dual character, you know, like with the real, the abstraction, you know, it is there. Things are produced to get used.
Yeah.
That's still they have you even in barbarism, if we can conceive of barbarism, there is still a notion of human. Because there is an aspiration what we could be and what we already are. Otherwise, I couldn't see this as barbaric.
Yeah.
And like this even goes to the point of totalization, even of fascism. Fascism was not completely total. There was resistance in fascism.
Yep.
There were even like leftists were organizing stuff, you know, social democrats, the church. Even in this total society, people acted human.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe the most hardest, because it's the most contradictory position, even the fucking Nazis themselves were in certain situations human. Because otherwise the world wouldn't work.
Right.
No, they maybe kissed their kids to bed and were a nice family father. And like I think that is the point of like the Zone of Interest movie. I haven't seen it yet, but I know because I know German cinema. I know what the point is.
Yeah, I think similarly, like, yeah, I haven't watched it, and I honestly don't know if I want to watch it, but I think I get the idea. But I don't want to put myself through that. Like, I already know that exists. That's just like watching like war movies. When I got out of the army, I watched Hurt Locker, I think was one movie.
Mm-hmm.
And they got, I think it was Hurt Locker and Jarhead are like these two Iraq war movies that I've seen that they got something right. About the kind of banality of war and the kind of functionality of war that I think for me was very cathartic to watch it because it kind of helped me overcome it or whatever. But all these other like popular war movies, I have no desire to watch them because I've seen it firsthand. Like I don't need to be woken up to a reality that I carry it with me on my back. And same thing with like that Zone of Interest, and similar movies. Like, I think they're great, and I think it does a great service to wake people up. But I've been awake. You know what I'm saying?
But it's also impossible. It's also impossible.
Yeah,
and it's not to say like, don't do these movies, but it's like there is something that cannot be explained about it. And I think Adorno's point to say like you cannot make art about the Holocaust, it is not possible.
Yeah,
is true.
Yeah,
maybe in the future we can, maybe, but it's like there is something so fundamental because in this recognition thing, you know, like the Holocaust was the inverse of that.
It was a rejection.
You know, like, it was the and something unspeakable fell out of that.
Yeah, there was a
not in like a Huyuyui mystical, you know, like oh the Holocaust.
In a material way.
It's still in a material,
Yeah, it was the foreclosure of this kind of recognition. I recently published a piece on my Substack called Rachel Dolezal, and it's a decent piece, but like there was a lot. There was a lot that I skipped over, because I guess the piece or the point of that piece was to say fuck you, Kendrick Lamar, and I guess that was it. But so I skipped over like
fuck you, Kendrick. But I understand the point. Like fuck you, Kendrick Lamar. Like
I think I was just having a little bit of fun. But no, really, fuck Kendrick. You're giving like it. But anyway, I skipped over the triangle slave trade, and I kind of say like the triangle slave trade was horrible, and it kind of created this problem. But so I think the German Holocaust of the Jews, and I mean, it wasn't just the Jews, right? But that's how we speak of it. I think that and the kind of triangle slave trade in which multiple European countries are complicit, multiple African nations at the time were also complicit, and America is complicit. So it's this kind of shared guilt. I think that was another moment where something inhuman was birthed onto the world. And it's a rejection of mutual recognition. And so, like, because you start out from this point of recognizing the other first.
Yeah.
Like, because
then
you are turned into a human because you recognize yourself as an alien. And then it's through the ping pong match, you become human yourself.
I will read something to you now.
Yeah.
Because let me check my library.
I'm gonna go make another cup of tea while you find your.
What's this book? So this is a book. It's called like The Scream for Life. It's by Martin Gray, and I think it's kind of like it's a first-hand account of the Warsaw Ghetto, and he even was in like extermination in the extermination camp Treblinka, which he claims. I think it's also kind of contested, but I take the man at his word. And it is about his experiences in the Warsaw Ghetto. Because he organized smuggling about of like bread and stuff into the ghetto because the Nazis were hungering them out. And there is a situation he describes that I'm right now looking for in the book. Maybe I have earmarked it.
You said the screen of life, like screen?
The scream for the scream. The scream for life.
Like yell. Okay.
Yeah.
Martin Gray.
There is the situation where he smuggles bread out of because he always calls the Nazis and the Polish everyone who collaborates he calls animals or beasts, or he doesn't call them human.
Well, we can argue. I guess that's the argument that I'm making, is that they're not. They reject humanity. They are rejecting their own humanity in order to become these instruments of total war.
Yeah.
And of course, this is sensational, and I wouldn't uncritically say it, but I think it is a rejection of the human.
Yeah. And then he is able to smuggle food into the ghetto because he can jump, because the train is going through it. The train actually went through it, so the Poles saw. Yeah.
The train went through the ghetto?
the ghetto.
Did
Yeah,
it?
and he could jump on it. No, it just went through it.
I just like I'm trying to imagine. So today, or in today's world, America has done a lot of innovation with urban planning.
Yeah.
And our ghettos, like major thoroughfares and like major arteries of transportation avoid the ghettos.
Yeah, I think back then, it was, it was imposed ghetto. The Nazis came and they said like, we
Yeah.
need a ghetto. You Poles will do this because you are now the helpers of us.
Yeah.
Um, Damn, I didn't earmark it because but it's so good. I really wanna find it. Yeah, here he's saying that he's getting bread. Do you have a moment for me to like kind of find this because I
Hell
think
yeah.
it's
No,
relevant
I'm excited.
because it has been a while that I read this book and I kind of know, like this weird. I know what I'm looking for, but not where.
Yeah, dude. That's like I don't want to distract you while you're looking, but it's like how we map like memory to
Yeah,
like geography, or maybe not geography, but like physical, like embodied space. Um, so like, you know what you're, what the thing you're looking for is connected to, and its context. So you like, in a way, where it is, but you can't remember exactly which turns you need to make to get to the specific neighborhood.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And I kind of know I'm looking for this one crossing.
Yep.
Like,
But then that's it. Like you find the one crossing, and it kind of unlocks the map, and the kind of the fog of time disperses, and it's all right there in clear relief.
no, that's already where they get him. It's, mm, oh, yeah. Yeah, here it is. Where are you smuggling? Yeah, this is the part. I have it.
Hell yeah.
Um, I'm like translating this on the fly, though. So I'm um I went back the way I came, and again I followed the two trains. It was true. One train was going through the ghetto from one gate to another, from Nalevik gate to Ditska gate. A blue one, these are the collaborators of the Nazis, like Polish police. A blue one should um, keep people from getting off or on the train while it was going through the ghetto.
Mm.
But when someone was jumping off or on, you could leave the ghetto or you could come back to the ghetto.
Huh.
I was sleeping little this night. In the early evening, I was standing at the Neldelik gate, waiting. I observed. I let a couple of trains go by. It was still early. On the first platform were no Germans. It was not yet time for the zoo visit.
Mm.
They were probably sleeping with their Warsaw horse.
Mm.
Then I went to the crossing Gizia Street. The train was coming in screeching. I didn't even need to look. All the sounds were already familiar to me. The train had to stop in the curve. Then I saw the first wagon coming into Gizia Street. I jumped on the platform right in front of me. The Poles in the interior acted as if they didn't saw me. They turned their heads away. Now came the Zamenhof Street. The dark, tragic mass birthed out of the birthed onto the tracks. We drove past the Mila Street. The air was clean. I was feeling like I felt like screaming loudly. I felt like not caring for their laws, having no more fear, not getting caught, to live. The sound of the tracking wire filled me with life. I hadn't left the ghetto yet, but I knew that I would make it. At the end of the Zamenhof Street, the train slowed down and we came to the Ditska gate. I made myself small on the platform. The train stopped and I saw the Germans. There were no SS men. I saw the German. He was no SS man. He went onto the platform and he noticed me. How could I ever forget this old, meager face, these bushy gray eyebrows? We looked at each other. An eternal moment. Then he winked at me. The train went further along. The ghetto was behind me. I met a human.
Mm. That is like I know I am kind of seeking out the human. And I think like I guess my whole life like I've been on this quest to find the human, because there are moments in the world in daily life where you have these encounters with people that are kind of incidental and kind of outside of time, whether it's, I mean, fighting for your life, running away from fucking SS officers, or I don't know, whether it's coming home from work after a long day and you stop at the gas station to buy water and a soda or something. There's just something that happens when you have just a brief incidental moment and an entire universe of meaning seems to flow between you and another person just on eye contact. Or, you know, maybe a raised eyebrow, or maybe a tilt of the head, or a nod, or something. But there are these moments, these infinite, eternal moments that are, I think, necessarily outside of language. Like it does seem to be the case that it is an unspoken flow. And I think that is like getting at what I am thinking of when I'm talking about like this recognition, this kind of the other being the conditions of possibility for the self. And like striving for it, seeking it out. And like, I really want to build a world predicated on that. But
yeah, man.
We can't. We live in the world, you know, we live after transatlantic slavery. We live after the Holocaust. Like we live in this world of total war, of total instrumentalization, of complete or seemingly complete commoditization. But I do think there's something human, like threatening to emerge, threatening to burst forth. And I think some people can barely contain it. While I think there are probably others who never experience it in their entire life. They go through an entire life without ever being or seeing a human. And it's unacceptable, dude. It's unacceptable.
Yeah, it is. Yes, that's true. And I think this is like the reason why I kind of like went away from, or like distance myself or criticize, question certain propositions that I entertained, because I'm like, is this useful? Because I am teleological in that sense. And
Yes.
I'm like, is this useful for this?
Yeah.
And like, it and useful could be like it's part of the truth, like a certain, you know, um that I have to see because it is negation, you know, not like to say like gear up, socialist.
Yeah.
Read your Stalin, and then no, this is exactly the wrong thing. This is exactly not what helps with that. Because I feel like our generation, and this in this sense, I think like that where I take it to heart, like this like kind of millennial bashing that's kind of like in, and I take it because I say like, no, it's true, and not because I am that, you know, but because I asked myself what was politically achieved, you know, like with my energy and my time and my love, and what unwittingly what harm did I do?
Yeah.
Because part of like, you know, like cancellations, infighting, sectarianism, not talking to the bad Stalinists because we don't talk to them, you know, like that was all fetishistic bullshit. That was all subcultural stuff.
Yeah.
Which was great for a while because it gave me a place to be, you know, and to flee to. But at some point,
I think the question of like efficacy, and yeah, I think I'm a very teleological thinker as well. And so I often come back to utility. And am I being pragmatic? Am I being effective Am I being the change I want to see in the world? But those, like, every time I go there, I just get fucking depressed because the answer is always no. I'm not. And I think it is the case that maybe all I can do is serve as the conditions of possibility for someone else to come along and actually be efficacious and actually do the thing and actually be the change that they want to see in the world. And I mean, look, that has its problems too. I think multiple times it's come up, but we've never dwelt, we've never tarried with it. But when Chris Catrone has come on specifically, this notion of sacrifice and how, like, well, we're just going to have to suffer, so the ones who come after us, maybe they won't have to suffer as much. And I do think that's the truth. But I also wonder if that becomes like a romantic defeatism. And I wonder, I just don't know. That's also not necessarily satisfying. But maybe we're not the ones for whom satisfaction is even on the table. Maybe that's it. Like, we are dead. We are already dead. So put away these childish notions of satisfaction and gratification and edification.
But dude, I'm asking myself, like, having gone through like another major depressive crisis in my life.
Yeah.
I'm asking myself, like, is it so bad to be like, in a sense, and not, you can never reach this, like, but to say like, hey, having some friends that I can play Dungeons and Dragons with, having some connections, like going to a platypus reading group so I can do it in real life, having connections to you, speak to some Americans, maybe put some money to the side, maybe do some organizing for like just out of principle to like, I don't know, learning groups for working class children so they can learn, just can, and doing some fucking job and saying, hey, that's okay. Because I really questioned, like, I don't know how it's for you, but I noticed like I grew up with this idea of like mega aspirations.
Yeah, dude.
Like everywhere was this, you can make it. Like the golden age has started.
Yeah.
Like 90s for me is like the golden age, and I wrote plays where I'm like, we are the generation of the golden age. Money, 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 gold, 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 like that.
Yeah, like Tony Montana, right? The world is yours.
Yeah.
And Star Trek, right? And this like diffuse ideology of possibility and actualization and edification.
Yeah. Yeah. Pop punk.
Yeah.
Like,
yes.
Skating. Yeah. It's freedom. Do it. Radical. Like all of that was like, you can be an artist. You don't fuck the man. Like even that was in the 2000s a big thing. Like,
yeah.
You don't have to be a cog in the machine. And I'm questioning myself, like, yeah, but, and of course I have higher aspirations, but at some point I'm like, maybe for a while, because I fought so much, and maybe you can relate to that, because I'm asking myself, is this also like from like lumpen working class to more working class, where you can say like, okay, things are not in crisis all of the fucking time.
Yeah.
That's like super depressing, because you have like this, you work, like bootstraps up.
Yeah.
And then you reach a ceiling and you're like, man,
is this it?
Being like really middle class is not even really an option anymore, because not even the PMCs really manage.
Yep.
I guess I'm stuck with like, even like for me with a bachelor's degree, for which I am in debt, I guess I'm stuck at like doing some job, earning minimum wage if nothing better comes along. I guess that's my life.
Yeah. No, I'm definitely in a moment of questioning, and it's doubt, right? And the other day Wukash shared a nice note talking about like love and doubt, and how, like, I don't remember exactly what he said. It was like a Freud quote about love and doubt. But what I got from it essentially was that, like, if love exists, then it's like the only sure thing. Like, you can doubt everything else. Like, you can reduce everything else down to this uncertainty. But if we believe that we live in a world in which love exists, then love is the only thing that you cannot doubt. And I don't know. I think that resonates with me for probably, you know, an entire list of reasons. But I also think it is true. Like, I know that I'm in a period of doubt, and that's self-doubt and insecurity and doubting others around me, and just kind of like, I don't know, in a way I'm tired, in a way I am just seeking comfort because I'm very uncomfortable. But but also, like, no, I do believe we live in a world with love, and I do believe that in order, like, I think love is a self-fulfilling prophecy, even, like, because we believe in love, it therefore exists.
The working, if love didn't exist, the working class wouldn't exist.
Right.
It's like I had this moment where I was like, when I read this like stuff about like women working and having children, and I
Yeah.
was like, without working class mothers loving their children, the children we wouldn't exist anymore as humans.
Yeah.
And Adorno, in the Minima Moralia, he has one quote that was really important for me because I was like having really shitty relationships,
Mm.
because I always looked for this toxic.
Mm-hmm.
You're good. You're, you're extra hot. I can fix you. You know, like
I can save her.
make it. I can save her.
Captain Save-A-Ho.
Yeah. And
I want someone
then
to
I
save
read
me, dude. Fuck all that.
and I read a quote from Adorno where it was like he wrote like, love is also a decision.
Yeah.
And I was like, both relationships I had after that were way better.
Mm-hmm.
Even hurt when one ended, but it was like I unlocked something inside of me that moment, because I said like, it's not only something that happens to me, but it's something that I do.
Yeah. You perpetrated on the world.
Yeah, it is a free action.
Yeah.
I'm not even subjugated under it in this kitschy way, but it's something like, you know, that I speak like 3 minutes with my girlfriend before I talk to you because she had to work and I'm not spending time with her right now. You don't think?
Dude, but I do, I think that's it. I think we're humans, and we're fragmented and we're flailing, and we, for whatever reason, we do see this kind of mutual recognition, the ping pong game of self and other, and I think due to our privileged position, it's like we have the they live sunglasses on. We have the ideology sunglasses, but instead of seeing ideology and the injunction, you know, we put them on and we can see recognition, and we can see love. And because we have these X-ray specs, it is up to us to take up the challenge and get to work and take up the task of laying the groundwork for a better world. I think I think that's why I don't like engaging in political conversations. Like we've had several conversations about like, well, what even is fascism? And I love that. And recently listening to Catrone kind of do this political, but still mostly theoretical work, like, and listening to Benjamin Studebaker talk about politics. Like, yeah, I can bear those conversations. I even enjoy those conversations. But when it comes to like talking about the politics of the moment right now, I just don't want to do it at all, because it is all just kind of scapegoat. Like, well, it's their fault and it's their fault. And look, as a woman, your partner is the most dangerous person in the world. And that's not the world I live in. And it's sure as fuck not the world that I'm going to accept. So if that's the world you live in, and if you're not willing to come meet me on some common ground, then we're just not going to be able to communicate. And it seems to be the case that more and more people just already live in this totalized world, and they don't even understand that it's a constructed world. They don't understand that there's a door in the room that they're in.
Yeah. And in this sense, we are leftists.
I mean,
and I mean that in the sense that no, I don't want to interpolate you.
Yeah.
That's but the guy who is organizing, one of the organizers for the socialist campaign for a socialist party in Germany.
Mm-hmm.
He did a panel for Platypus, and at some point he said something I found really remarkable, because he said like, yeah, for the organizing work we want to do, leftists are an obstacle, because they come in with all these notions, and then he said like they come in with anti-woke, woke. It's both the same, like, and even I have this tendency that I fall on one side or the other, and I notice that I'm like kind of leaning more there.
Yep.
Because at some point, like, I don't want to completely dox, because it is related to my work stuff that we talked about, but I was in a feminist room, and then there was a moment for weeks, and then there was a moment where I was like, yes, but I'm not for rape.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't want to reject everything in like this fetishistic way, like disavow everything you are saying here. There is a truth to what you are doing. And I want to look for opportunities in meeting people, like organizing people. And I think, like, I know you have an anarchist background, like that is a very anarchisty point to say, like, yeah, what do the people in this quarter need?
Yeah.
And not to like teach them, because what the fuck is to be teached?
Yeah.
Right now, what can we really teach? In a sense, we have to learn. If I say this,
Yeah. No, I mean you can't take a vase and fill it with water if it's cracked. You have to first patch the cracks. And no, I think, look, I
don't understand what a vase is.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's a vase.
Yeah. No, I think. Look, I think left, no longer left, post left, whatever, anti left. I think that's all largely sensational. I am at a point where I'm kind of not invested. So I believe in emancipation. I believe in the human. I have a background. I have a leftist background. I have an anarchist and a Marxist background that informs everything I do, and I can't help but see the world through those lenses. But like the signifier left kind of got in the way of my own personal development, and so I had to like divest myself of it.
Yeah.
But I do think like I mean, structural thinking and emancipation and kind of like a humanism, like that was always the core of the left for me. And if I can find other leftists who agree that that's the core of the left, then hey, I'm here for it. And if it is just an exercise in like waiting to see who is still here after 5 years of like doing whatever it is we're doing, and then we're willing to say these are the leftists, then okay.
Man, I had this thing with like I see it kind of like I understand Catrone's and the Platt's point
Yeah.
because and I'm interested what you think about it. Because I think there are layers, and sometimes this discussion of left
Yeah.
shifts layers. There's like people mean liberals, I would say reactionaries, then it becomes this like turn game, and it's like, okay, what the fuck are we even talking about? Are we talking about Democrats, established parties, students at the university, whatever the fuck? But I was like, it is in a sense, it is a concept, and it's an invention,
Yeah.
like class struggle.
Yeah.
And I think it's like the point with this Kolakowski essay is to emphasize, because I read yesterday the Cryptofash Catrone
Mm.
Back and forth again. And ultimately, I think Cryptofash is wrong.
Mm.
Was denn? Ach so. Cryptofash is wrong. Willst du Hallo sagen?
Hello.
That's my beautiful girlfriend. I think Cryptofash is wrong because I think he doesn't take that point that it's like an invention.
Mm.
It's a tool in a sense.
It
It's not
is
like,
a tool. Yeah.
it is a tool. It is a concept to clarify a certain development in history. But in a sense, it's also nothing more than that.
Yeah.
And of course, it gets attached. And this is why I said in the beginning, I'm a flat-pilled guy now, because I think I agree with them that it is a sign of defeat,
Mm-hmm.
that it's getting attached and so invested and so because it has to make up for what we are not able or unwilling or cannot see right now to what is to be done,
Mm.
which could be right now almost nothing. Yeah, that's
I think with relation to what many people think of when they think of the left, I think absolutely it is almost nothing, if not nothing at all.
Yeah.
But I think this kind of, I mean, we are preparing fields so that we can, plant 1,000 seeds and let 1,000 flowers bloom, right? But I do believe that. Like it's a funny joke and it's like ha ha ha, but also like no, I think that's it. Like I think we are frozen. I think there is currently no way out but through. And I think that when we're on the other side of history or the future or whatever, if we hope to have a human future, we have to plant the groundwork. We have to build a foundation. Maybe we're not even building the foundation yet. Maybe we're excavating still, right?
Yeah.
We're excavating and then we'll pour the foundation and then someone will come around and build a basement. And yeah, I think I love language. I love playing with language. I love writing and I love language and I love language games, but also like I don't conflate language games with material activity. So if I'm a leftist, okay. I mean, my whole life I've never been signified appropriately. Maybe in the context of interpersonal relationships, I have been signified in an appropriate way that I agree with. Maybe not, but I think maybe. I think that's what makes love special, right? Is love gives us the ability to connect on that level. But when it comes to like broad society, I've never been captured by a word. In fact, I mean, there's so much pain that comes along with, at the end of the day, I just want someone to tell me that they see me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I feel like it's so hard to follow the rules and play the game and go and do all these things that are, for me, I'm a scared little child, right? And I just want someone to comfort me and console me. But I do what I have to do. And at the end of the day, like, I just want to feel like someone sees me, because I see others.
Yeah.
And it's through my sight of the other that I'm able to actualize in the world. But when everything is reduced down to just economics, when everything is reduced down to production, consumption, and follow the rules or you'll be ejected from society and this and that, like, there is no room to articulate, hey, I see you. And maybe it's not explicitly I love you, because that's a weird word that's been, I think, perverted by our society. But like, no, like, I want that recognition. And I think it's possible. I don't think it's possible. I know it's possible, because it's through that, it's through my knowledge of that I'm able to, like, go out into the world. So yeah, I don't want to instrumentalize like that impulse to live in a good world just to politics, because fuck politics, fuck that shit, dude.
Aber man, see, I was so viscerally reacting that I switched to German. But man, I get it completely. No, like, my whole life I felt like a chimera.
Yeah.
That I was always like, this is not quite right. This is not quite right. These people are not completely right for me. Where do I belong? I guess nowhere. And like, my impulse is for, like, to want emancipation is also a personal one. You know, like, I had a situation when I was a youth where I thought, like, the world is wrong.
Yeah.
You know, like, this is all fucked up. Like, the world is wrong, and that is a powerful feeling.
Yeah, it is.
And to reduce it, everything after that was a tool. You know, like reading Marx, thinking about Hegel, Zizek, doing art. Everything was in service to channel this profound moment of something is not right, and it's a very lonely position. Think, like, Catrone talked with Doug Lane about the election, and then he said in, like, their Patreon section, he said, like, that one student told him that she could not make art while people die in Palestine. And he said, like, that's like, because they are so afraid, they lie awake at night and, like, feel so horrible.
Yeah.
And then he talked about, like this generation, why is it so depressed? Why is that? And I mean, he always adds, and I like that about him and Spencer, that their generation is also useless. So I can take their millennial bashing very nicely, because I'm like, okay, Axers, like, what did you
fuck
leave
you
us?
guys too, right?
Fuck you guys, yeah, you.
Yeah.
And I thought, like, why? I think, like, there's a very specific historical moment that our generation grew up in. And that's not like to reject any responsibility, because I think you can't do that. There's also always this contradiction of, like, of course, at the end of the day, I'm fucking responsible for what I do.
Yeah.
Daddy won't come.
Yep.
Um,
Daddy doesn't exist.
Daddy doesn't exist. They are all idiots. They are
Yeah.
all failures. Um, and I do like around me, I notice that people are very scared. And I don't take that as like a moral failing. I'm like, what are these structures that 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 generated these feelings? Like a generation that really feels lost.
Mm.
And why were millennials doomers?
Yeah.
And why was the whole aesthetic around depression? And why do so many people in our age go to therapy regularly? Um, don't get out of therapy really. And not only to put it on like the structure of like there is um, like a ego psychology ideology la la la, but what are the material reasons, historical reasons for that?
Yeah, I think it is this kind of like change in base that there is no. So, I mean, yeah, are there not workers? Is there not production happening? Sure, I take that into consideration, but I also say like at this point it's all reproduction. None of us are kind of able to actualize in the world in this way that we were previously able to do so by our work, where yes, they were workers and all they could do was like alienate themselves, but they still had a more gratifying, edifying form of actualization in the world via labor. Now it's still fucked up. I don't want to live in a workerist world where that's all we have. But it is true that conditions have changed. The world has deteriorated even further, where now not even our consumption can satisfy this call to self-actualization, be the change in the world, be the person. Like everything we do is just this bullshit. And so it is a material reason we are we are primed for that recognition, because what little of it we used to be able to get is gone. And so there's none of it. And so we're all heartbroken, hopeless retards just searching for someone to, at the end of the day, hug us and console us and say, it's okay. I know that you are struggling. And ego psychology is a very effective instrument for turning that drive for human connection into nothing but a commodity.
And it is a very, it's a strong predisposition to authoritarianism.
Yes. Well, yeah, because you're waiting for someone else to come along and tell you what the problem is and solve it for you. We're all in this scarcity mindset where we're all struggling and we're underwater and we're drowning, and we just want a hand to come in and reach us and pull us up. So again, there's complicity, but I don't want to deal in blame. We're all complicit.
No. Yeah.
So it is this weird. I mean, the problem itself is kind of dual natured in that it's a material problem, but it's also a problem of subjectivity, and that it becomes a vicious cycle. And the churn, the cyclical nature of capital, these revolutions that keep happening, and we have the sexual liberation and queer liberation and neurodiverse liberation and all these things, and it just becomes cyclical. And every day, tomorrow, there's a new revolution, and guess what? This is going to be the one that's successful, and we're all just waiting on tenterhooks for the successful revolution. But we all also know nothing is changing.
But okay, two questions. First, about which time, like which time do you have in mind when you speak about like this possibility of self-actualization?
Maybe it started deteriorating after World War II. Maybe with cybernetics. And with like the beginnings of instrument or automation and the kind of the managerial revolution, I do think like total war also opened up total economic instrumentalization. So I think that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Okay.
And I mean, and it started with the Industrial Revolution. Like, it used to be the case that a furniture maker could go cut down a tree, haul it to the workshop, craft the tree, paint, craft the chair, paint it, transport it to market, sell it himself. Like, the worker had more of himself actualized through his labor. Yeah.
Bourgeois relation.
Yeah, exactly.
He was able to be bourgeois.
So this long, slow process of proletarianization that I think was completed, and now we're onto something new, where it's like a return to previous forms. Like we all became proletarianized, and then now we're kind of returning to maybe a previous form of peasants or something. But I don't know the words. But yeah,
I think that okay. I have two theories. I think one is we still live in the deterioration of the wealth of the boomers.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big point. And I think I do that as a self-critique.
Yeah.
Like, what is our mode of critiquing? And I think we have lived through this apparent downfall of wealth. And I think that structures our way of critiquing. That is why it's so negative, and that might be why it feels so oppressively dystopian. Yeah. At the same time, I'm asking myself, what is the potential that's still in the world in the moment that like production becomes more and more global and capitalism cannot go back? And it might appear to us in this moment like isolation, breaking up, like falling back onto something, being like serfs, almost. But if the value of labor power is falling so much that that the reserve army of is so fucking big, and I count into that people who need to do shit jobs, like what I'm going through right now. Like, what are actually the unlearned labor I can do because my degree is worth nothing in the world aside from, like what how can I make my money? That it's like in this moment of like diffusion, like actually more working class in a sense, yet not conscious, more connected working class, that it appears to us as like falling below something that was achieved.
Okay, so I mean, you have nothing to lose but your chains, in a sense, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we could say like those chains have morphed into like an Iron Maiden.
Yeah.
But it is still the case that we have nothing to lose but our hyper individualized, on demand, uniquely algorithmically crafted just for you Iron Maidens. Yeah. I think it is the case, and I do think I think we shall not despair, right? I think there is hope to be found in the withering away of kind of previous forms of instrumentalization and subjectivization, but also I don't want to be too romantic with that, because I mean, there are people around the world who don't have access to that kind of internal revolution. There are people around the world who all they do is suffer until they die a death of desperation. And so, which is kind of going back to when I was pussyfooting around this notion of sacrifice. While I think all that is there for me politically, if if we're asking the question, and I often can't help but ask myself the question, what am I doing? My answer to that, for me, it's sacrifice. That's all I can do. I can do nothing else. I'm entirely ineffective. All I can do is be a fucking a skid mark on the underwear of some revolutionary far off in the distant future who I'll never have any contact with. And I'm okay with that. That for me is gratifying. But for the masses of people on the planet, for the majority of people on the planet, I don't think we should romanticize this self-sacrifice, this kind of suicidal impulse to, self-destruction in the cause of building a glorious future, because I think there probably are a lot of people who can act in the world immediately to make the world a better place immediately. Or at the very least, like, lessen their suffering a little bit so the world is, and then we're getting into like utilitarian arguments of like, more suffering, less suffering, and I don't want to totalize the world in that way either.
Yeah. But I mean, but isn't there also a part of actualization? Like, I mean, if I say, okay, in the grand scheme of things, like, sacrifice.
Mm-hmm.
We will not. We have been raised on these ideas of revolution and all this romantics. I have this deep within, like even what a revolution is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I take when the Plats always refer Lenin, I'm not like, oh, Lenin is the best big-brained guy ever.
Yeah.
But that he pointed out what is to be done now.
Yes.
I would take a risk. There is no one who will give me the guarantee that this will work.
Yeah.
Which is at the same time, I think, his greatest achievement and his big failure.
Yeah.
But isn't there in like claiming to say like, what we are doing right now is like we are able, with everything that the internet is and FBI and CIA, we are able right now to connect across the fucking Pacific Ocean.
Yeah.
No, it's the Atlantic Ocean. I don't know geography.
I don't know geography either. It's okay. I was like, yeah, that's right.
The big lake.
Well, if you go the other way, you were just going the other way.
I was just a desiring machine. I was going the other way.
Yeah.
To connect and to at least discuss and share perspectives. And I mean, like, I wouldn't have seen myself doing that 10 years ago, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
To know some guy from Phoenix who was in the army, and I can ask like questions like, how is it in fucking Phoenix, Arizona, at like the burned up crisp of the the earth, like like this is a form of actualization, not in like the who, like concretely, like I think more into the direction of like it is a form of actualization to build up a movement.
Yeah.
And not the like teleological way of like, and then with the movement I will do this and we will do la la la.
Yeah.
But in the dialectical sense of like, of course, organizing will have to change me.
Yeah.
Because otherwise it will be a repeat of the failure of the last fucking 50 years?
Yeah.
80? How long?
Our entire lives, that's for sure. Everything, everything we've known. I mean, we were born into this world that was already swept out from underneath us. And I do feel like we are uniquely situated. I do feel like it is a privilege to be. And look, everyone always says shit like we're living in interesting times and we're living at pivotal moments. Like that's a thing that people do, but I also think it's true. And I also think like the material changes that have happened are undeniable. And it is true that we are bringing about new something. I'm even less concerned with the language, but we're bringing about something new by practicing the way we are practicing, by theorizing the way we are theorizing. And I think it's like inescapable at this point. In order to engage the way we're engaging, it is both. Like we have to do what we are doing, but we also have to be critical of what we're doing while we're doing it and feed that critique back into action. And so it's this self-propelling praxis machine. And it is true that it couldn't happen without historical conditions, without the internet and without upward social mobility. That's not really upward, but like we live in a type of a weird relation to the economy where in a way we're hyper instrumentalized, but in a way we also have infinite freedom.
It's such a weird position.
It is.
I realized that because like it stressed me out. Like fuck, I had panic attacks because of that,
dude.
Because like I was like, what did I actually learn? Like a job, where I can go, like this idea still of like, because I think in the US you don't have this, like you have a super specialized system in Germany because they give out all of these like certificates even in like craft work, like and so like the job market is very segregated into like these categories of like shitness, like and so I looked at jobs and I was like, what the fuck do I actually want to do to just get money where I don't get crazy? And I'm already getting crazy at my job, but I was like, yeah, do I want to be a cashier? And it's weird because there are these possibilities of like, I could go into this, I could start learning a craft for 3 years, if on even less money than minimum wage. And I don't know where I want to go with that, but like it felt really weird because I was like, what am I supposed to do? Like, what is the job I can do where like I can maybe still have a little bit of a life? I don't want to kill myself every day. I get enough money to pay the bills, even though it is not a lot. And it was like anxiety inducing because it felt really sideways. It didn't feel upward mobile, even though I have a bachelor's. It's like, it's who will fucking hire me? Like my best, like one of my best friends from acting, he had kind of the same moment, and he was like, he had the moment where he was like, oh my God, I learned a job where no firm will ever employ me. What do I bring to the table?
It is like, I mean, it really does feel like an infinite proliferation of possibilities. It's just like they're true. Like it is true that you can kind of travel the world and be whatever you want to be, and you can do it, anything you put your mind to. Like I think that's true in this very like almost like absurd Kafka-esque sense where it's like, be careful what you wish for. But it's also like, it's not true because in order to be free, you have to perform freedom. But in the performance of freedom, like you're foreclosing actual freedom. So like, I think this right now, this conversation is an expression of freedom.
Yeah.
And I think the time I spend talking, the time I spend reading, the time I spend writing, the time I spend traveling the world and going to Berlin and riding trains and going to Boise and doing a conference, like all of that that's actual freedom, but it's like I'm not performing freedom. Like I'm actually instrumentalizing myself in order to be able to do that. But it's through that my freedom can actualize. But like out in the real world, like the people on Instagram that are performing freedom, like they are the ones who are trapped in a Kafka. They are the ones who like they're not actually doing. Every time they go to the beach and they take the selfie and they post it and they upload it, like they're not actually going to the beach. They're simulating it, and they're not even simulating it for themselves as participants. They're simulating it for themselves as second order members of their own audience. But it is true. We do live in the future where your wildest dreams come true. It's just, I think no one realized that includes nightmares.
Yeah, man. For me, I reached the point where I was like, fuck all of this. I'm gonna do just a job.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, man, like for real, where I was like, I am not willing to get super depressed because I had like with my partner, I had like fights where we were like, do we have to break up because like, oh, you have to realize yourself as that, and there was a moment where it's like, I don't fucking want to sit there crying with the person I love.
Yeah.
With this shit, then I'm not, and it even has something to do with like seeing yourself a little bit more clearly.
Yep.
To say like, I am not like there are people who have learned so little and they don't understand logical sequences. They don't understand how to ask questions, how to they never learn to learn.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's something that I learned. I learned how to learn in the fucked up way that it is in this world. Yeah, and fractured and all of that. But in relation, like that's like there are possibilities, I can work a fucking cashier job
Yeah.
and just get my money and say, okay.
Well, and that
Because
opens up like that opens up the possibility for those moments of freedom. Like it is because you can grin and bear it, and you can just do the thing and be like the shitty economic cashier or whatever. That's the only way to purchase any real freedom anymore, is to just settle. You have to settle. So you could be paralyzed by this choice, but it's a false choice, or you can just kind of submit and say, well, this is the only way it's going to work. But then you have to like carry a resolve with you to get through the long days at the dick sucking factory, because you have access to these moments, and they're getting fewer and further between, and like we're being squished on all sides economically. But I mean, yeah, dude, there's no escape.
But for real, like actually, like the moments, I'm gonna say the weird thing, because I always think like, is this romanticization? But I had to do manual labor when I moved out of home, like I know what it is like. And I know it sucks, and I know like there are the days where it's like, fuck this, I cannot do it, my body hurts, my mind hurts, shit. But the unfreedom I had in an institution with so precarious, which I think also is in academia the case, where it's so precarious that I don't know where I'm gonna be in 2 or 3 years, because the fucking director will change.
Yep.
He might tell me, you're out. I have to build up a whole network. I am not this kind of socialite where I'm like, in a couple of months, I have 10 friends in the city, it takes time for me.
It takes a very long time.
Like, to be uprooted all of the fucking time.
Yep.
Not because I'm like so anxious. Like, I have lived in super many cities, And um, then I'm like, but what is left after that?
Mm.
What is left when they kick me out or when I get burned out like I did now?
Yep.
And these moments felt more unfree. Like if somebody tells you, like if the milieu is like, this is the place where we actualize ourselves.
Yeah.
This is where we make that felt more alienating.
Yep.
It felt worse on a deeper level than when I was working um, in a fucking storage house and putting glass, like drinks on conveyor belts. I was clearer in that moment when I walked out from that fucking warehouse. I was like, okay, the work is done.
Yeah.
And I feel like shit and I'm tired and all of that. And maybe today I worked extra hard to get a little bit more cash because Christmas is coming up and I want to buy something nice for someone I love.
Hmm. But at least you could, like, at least you have your self. Like, at least you're not entirely consumed by this bullshit of like, do the art, do the thing. Like, because I think, like, when you're engaged in art, like, and I went through the same shit with photography. Like, when I was trying to make a living doing photography, like, it immediately became this like gross vampiric thing that I could not stand to do, and it was like all consuming. Whereas I love photography, but when it became an economic proposition, it consumed every waking moment. Like I was just thinking about, and it was like, I don't have me. But then when I went back to work cleaning toilets, I was freed up again immediately to think and to breathe
Dude,
and to love and to explore.
I had the same thing. The moment I was like, really, I had like, I think 2 weeks or something like that. I was like, no, I'm gonna go. I'm like, I don't want to be here because I'm still working at the theater and was like, mm-mm. Everything tells me there when I walk around, the people, I always think, I hate this here. I don't want to be here
Yeah, dude.
because of exactly this reason. And the moment I was like, it's, I'm making a decision I already made and
Yep.
I'm making myself conscious of it.
Yep.
Um, I immediately had the idea for a short film.
Hell yeah.
And I was like, I don't know how to do it. And it was the freakiest shit. I was like, hey, I know this actor guy. He's also super downtrodden on his luck. I would like to work with him. He's a freak. I want to make a movie where a guy walks around and we write a weird text about our times, a stream of consciousness, and I only do close up of his hands and his legs, and we walk through. Maybe we go to Berlin and we do it there, and it's all black and white, and it's super freaky, and nobody will maybe get it. But and I felt like I want to do that, and like not like it was a job,
Yeah. Yeah.
not like it.
You can reconnect with it on a spiritual level. You can see the love in it once again because it's been de-instrumentalized, or
Yeah,
you've managed to approach this type of instrumentalization that allows you to do it because you have to work hard. You have to be good at what you do. You have to know the trade, the craft, the skills, and that's all instrumentalization. But if it can be like a convivial instrumentalization as opposed to this economic bullshit, or this like acquisitive, this manipulative type, then yeah, and it feels good to be good at art, for lack of a better term.
but yeah,
It's like learning a new language, and like when you when you reach a level of proficiency in the new language, you are freed up, and it does open up an entire new world of possibilities. And skills are the same way. It's just like you have the ability to choose to pursue it rather than having it kind of foist upon you by the big other, by capital, by economic material conditions. And it would be cool if we lived in a world where everybody could take that approach and have that experience. Like that's
play.
it's play. It's another huge
play.
part of time energy, of emancipation, of all these questions. Like I would love it if people could experience the type of gratification, actualization, realization that comes along with like skill acquisition.
Yeah. But I'm also like, I'm kind of leaning towards this because I'm super perfectionistic in art.
Yeah.
I watch plays and I'm like, nah, no, 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 you should never do that like that. But I'm like, I just want to play, you
Yep.
know? I'm like,
Yep.
how can you use the camera? Because I know the basic thing. I have watched enough cinema. I have enough of an eye. I can, like bring things over from directing and acting that I
Mm-hmm.
know and put it there and just be like, fuck it, man. Maybe I just like I watched a YouTube video that like a guy did a movie about a serial killer and they built like this was in the 80s and they built a mirror on the camera that like the image you see is mirrored and it makes the movie super strange because you don't realize that it's mirrored,
Right.
but you feel it. It's something with
Yeah.
the images of, and shit like that.
Yeah.
Like, do we take like a plastic thing that's like see-through, but it still has like the material, you can see it, and we put it on the cam, and I shoot this guy as he like drinks coffee, but like in the shitty cafe where like all the working people go, like, and I don't know, it has things like the big factory is everywhere, uh, but it's rush hour and it has been closed. It's like, this comes from the off and like
Yeah.
shit like that.
Play, free expression, free association, and love. I'm gonna cut off the recording and I'm actually gonna upload this to my podcast because
Nice, dude.
I think this will be a good episode. And I think there's a lot here. So anyone who listens to it, fuck you, quit your job, go become a movie star. You can do it. You be the change you want to be. Anything you put your mind to, you can accomplish. No, the message is, I don't know, be a realist, accept limits, but refuse to be limited. Maybe
Do it anyway.
Do it anyway.
Do it anyway, and don't think that like it's not a job.
Mm.
It's living.
We got to get
Think
back to living.
Yeah. Like connect with people. First thing, I think the most maybe that's like how I what I want to say at the end is like the maybe the most socialist thing to do in these times is to connect to people.
Yeah. I can get behind that, man. I really can. Because I feel like I feel like there are a lot of people putting the cart before the horse, and I feel like a great way to escape that would be actually getting out and dealing with the world and dealing with people as such, and kind of reconnecting with why you care in the first place. Like at some point, all of us radicals, whatever, went through a moment of like subjective destitution, and we realized like things are not as they should be. Maybe there's something I can't do, and I think that realization, things are not as they should be, is centered around the human, and it's centered around how the human is forced to contort into odd little shapes like factory machines, gears and gadgets and gizmos. And we all have this like realization, like, no, we're bigger than that. We're so much more than that. But I think there's a tendency to fall away from that and retreat from that into theory. I know that's what I do, or into political organizing. I know some people maybe lose sight of the goal and they just become obsessed over like checking the boxes and doing the thing. But yeah, man, we got to start living again, and you can't live in isolation, like necessarily. Human congress, human activity, human like it is to be a human is to be like a human amongst other humans. So start living again.
Civil society.
Yeah.
Civil society.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, there are a lot of people who have problems. And some of these problems are, for example, they cannot express themselves artistically. You can do that. You can try to get at your local community center, whatever. There is probably a place in your town or city, and
or
do
or people waiting for a space to do it in, and you can be part of constructing that space.
Yeah. I mean that, like I just mean like logistically, like you have to find a house, a room, a space, and then do the thing. And it's gonna be weird. I know that from my experience organizing, and things will be fucky and they will not be perfect. But I think that is part of the connecting to people.
Yeah. Encountering and kind of reincorporating these tensions, these contradictions, these failures, these negativities. That's what we do, man. That's what humans do, and we gotta get back to it. Or else we have indeed lost the war, and I don't think that is the case. So, podcast listeners, fucking Wu-Tang. Do all the drugs, listen to hip hop music, be gay, do crimes. No, don't take all that. But yeah, do whatever you want. I'm going to hit stop. Okay.